Hi there, and welcome to my Genius Hour TED Talk. For my Genius Hour project, I decided to do something a little ambitious. I asked myself, could I design a system of lessons and that taught somebody all the basics of Mandarin Chinese in just 1 month's time? Now, I feel like I should clarify something. I was not trying to teach the entire language in just 1 month. That would be impossible and a task for somebody much braver than myself. No, I'm simply trying to design a set of lessons that would teach the novice all the basics of Mandarin Chinese, so that if they were ever to go to China, they would have the survival skills necessary to get by there. So, the way this TED Talk is going to go is I'm going to start off by talking about my experience in China and why that led me to want to create this set of lessons and why I feel it's so important. After that, I'm going to move on discussing what those lessons actually consist of. So, about 2 years from this very day, I decided to do one of the most ridiculously terrifying things of my entire life, and that was go to China to teach English. Now, I feel like it's very important to note that I did not actually realize this was going to be one of the most ridiculously terrifying things of my entire life until about 20 minutes after I got off the plane, when I realized that the 4 or 5 words of Chinese I actually knew might not actually be enough. And I know what you're thinking, most people around the world speak English anyway, why does it really matter? And that's what I thought as well. However, I realized that when I got to the small city of 1.5 million that I was going to call home for the next little while, that it was a very rural city, and that in that whole city there's only 30 foreigners. So suddenly that 4 or 5 words of Chinese that I actually knew was no longer really enough. And to make matters even worse, of those very few words and phrases I knew, a number of them weren't actually even commonly used in China. As it was, the only person that I ever heard that use the phrase "ni hao ma," or "how are you," was the American teacher that I worked with. So, because of this, I really felt strongly that I wanted to create a set of lessons that could teach somebody these basics that was actually necessary to survive in China. Many lessons try to teach people with the aim of getting them fluent, but this takes a very long time, and it teaches them a lot of language that they might necessarily not need to know right away. And so these lessons, I really want to just avoid all of that and teach just the bare bones, what you're going to need to know to survive in this country. So, an important area to address then is, what are these lessons actually going to consist of? Well, the first lesson, which is kind of obvious, to be honest, is on the phonics. You can't learn to speak a language if you can't even read what these words say in the lessons. So the lesson is dedicated to teaching the difference between Chinese and English phonics, as well as what the 4 tones mean as well. After that, the next lesson is on something that's also quite important, and this is just the basic bare bones. So teaching people greetings like hello and things like this, as well as teaching people how to count to 1 to 10, and important things like this. After this, we move on to another very important lesson, and this is about how to ask yes or no questions. Now, I want to clarify something here. This lesson was not designed to teach the grammar of Chinese, because the grammar in Chinese is very different from English grammar and quite difficult for some people to pick up on. So because it's so complex, I really did not try to touch on this, because what's more, this grammar is not something that beginners will really need to know. If they just want to learn to ask basic questions, then they don't need to know the whys and hows and things like this. So for this lesson, I focused just on teaching very basic questions like where are you from, what's your name, things like this. The one bit of grammar I do teach, though, is how to ask yes or no questions, because this is one part that's actually quite simple to get in Chinese. It's very straightforward, and yes or no questions are an important part of learning any language. From this lesson, though, I move on to my personal favorite lesson, and that's on food. Anytime that I've ever traveled to another country, my first thought in my mind is, how am I going to get food? So the next lesson is all about ordering food. I actually found that when I first went to China, one of the most stressful experiences that I had there was when I was trying to, when was trying to order food. However, as my Chinese progressed and I was actually able to order food in Chinese, I found it became a really rewarding experience. Not only was I able to try new and interesting foods, but I was also able to save a lot of money, and it was the first step to really make me feel at home in this country, like I really belong there. And so that's one reason why I really, really want to teach. It's how to order food in Chinese. The last lesson is one that's also kind of obvious, but it's just simply how to get around. So, how to talk to taxi drivers, how to tell them where you want to go, and things like that. It also teaches the names of a couple important places, such as at the airport, bus station, and things like this. So, this is what my 5 lessons in my Genius Hour project are about. I hope that you've enjoyed this talk. Thank you very much for watching. If you want more information, please feel free to check out my blog. It's got all the lessons right on there. So once again, thank you for watching, and 再见.